There's always a first. There's a first for everything that you do in your life. There's always the first time. I get asked on many occasions, actually, whether I'm performing or just talking to other musicians or just running into other fans who happen to ask questions about some of the firsts, like what was your first gig? What was your first piece of gear that you bought, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to share with you some firsts, and then I want you to share with me some of your firsts as well. And you can comment that, of course, put it in the comments. Now, before we continue, again, appreciate your support and following along on the Laire journey, especially now as I am working on album number 3, which is called ER. I've talked about that on other Raw and Unfiltered, which are all archived here on the Laire YouTube channel. So definitely check those out. But yeah, let's talk about some first. Oh, and of course, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Okay, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I don't want you to miss out on any episodes. And again, I really appreciate your support. All right, so let's go back in time to my very first guitar, my first electric guitar. Now, my very first guitar actually was an old K acoustic guitar that I found in the closet that my dad, I guess his dad, my grandfather, gave it to him, but my dad never played music. So it sat in the closet and I discovered it, and it was kind of beat up. So we took it to a guitar shop and they fixed it up, and that's where I started playing guitar. I actually learned a lot of what I do by ear before I had any formal training. But my first electric guitar was an old Sears guitar. So check this out. This is actually, this is actually a very interesting picture because my friend Chris, he's playing the Sears guitar. That was my very first electric guitar. It came with the guitar and also this little cheapy little amp. I think it was like a 5-watt amp, if even that. Maybe it was 2 watt. I don't know. It wasn't very powerful. But that was my first guitar. I bought it off a kid who lived down the street for, I think, $40 for the guitar and amp. And it served its purpose, but just didn't sound so great. So my second official guitar is the one that I'm playing there in that picture with just laughing at the Disco Sucks shirt. What can I say? Hey man, facts are facts. That is obviously a Flying V copy. It's not a real Flying V, but there was another guy who lived in the neighborhood who I think he wanted $100, and I think I got him to sell it to me for like $95. It took $5 off or something, 90 or $95. But that was my second guitar. Though I do consider my very first real guitar being the 1979 Fender Anniversary Stratocaster. Love this guitar. To this day, this is my main guitar. When it comes to electrics, that's the one. I've had it since it came out in 1979. I'm the only owner of this, the original owner of this guitar, and this has been with me for many, many, many years. Love this guitar. So this is a first. I consider this guitar really my firstborn. I call him my firstborn because it was my first professional guitar, real guitar. Really love that. So those are a couple of firsts. Do you have a first? Are you a musician? What was your first guitar? I'd love to hear about it. Maybe you are a keyboard player. What was your first synth, right? My first synth was that Prophet 600, which I still have and I still use today, which you'll hear in all of my albums that I record. Great keyboard, and really dig it. But those are some of the first. So I'd like to hear some of those first. If you're a musician, put in the comments. Love to hear about your first piece of gear. Maybe you have a classic guitar. For me, I'm going to get out of the way of it. Like Strats, I love Strats. That actually, I just picked this one up. I bought that Fender Strat from a good friend of mine who is also a musician. He's moving and he's going to be living in a different state, and he's just getting rid of some gear and just taking some of the essential things that he wants to take when he moves. So I wanted to help him out, and he offered me a great price on that guitar, so I picked it up. And I will use it, by the way, and I think it's probably going to be on the album as well, because the one thing about the 79 Strat, my firstborn, and this guitar, which is about 10 years old, is the neck is a little bit thinner, so it's a little bit easier to play. So I might be using this guitar as well. Anyway, so that was a first. First color in that color, but okay, that doesn't really count as to what I was talking about in regards to first, because we all have firsts. The other first that I get asked is, what was the first song that you've ever written? And I remember that, and I did talk about that on another Raw and Unfiltered, and it was a song that was called "The Lady Who Fell Out of a Car," about a car accident that happened when I was in 8th grade. Heard about it, walked up to it, not a pretty sight. Wrote this song that I thought was a serious song, but ended up being one of my, what I call, campfire tunes, which are just a bunch of silly songs, and this is definitely one of them. So there you go. That was my very first song. And again, as a songwriter, if you're a songwriter and musician, you just got to do it. You know, you hear this a lot with people who talk about teaching songwriting and even about writing in general. You have to do it. You just got to keep doing it, and that's just something that I do, that I try to do. And I know that I really want to be inspired when I do my writing, but you know, you do what you can, and sometimes you're just going to write crappy songs, but it's part of the process. It's just part of the process. So that was my first song. I'd love to hear about your first song too, so again, put it in the comments. Another question I get asked is, what was your first live performance? And thinking back, I remember it was on my birthday, gosh, many years ago. This is probably, well, if it was on my birthday, it was when I between graduating high school, graduating 8th grade, actually. It was 8th grade, going into 9th grade, and we did a gig. I had a band. It was called Voyager, and the reason why I called it Voyager was that my dad worked for, at that time he was working for Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, which is working for NASA. He worked on all those unmanned space flights, and Voyager, you've heard of Voyager, of course. Voyager's still sending back signals on the outskirts of the universe, right? My dad worked on that, so I called my band Voyager. And we played a gig at the American Legion, the local American Legion. I don't think we did any original songs. I think it was just all cover tunes, but that was my first gig. Another question that I get asked is, what was the first concert that you ever went to? Like your first rock concert? Well, you know, it could be first concert. I would love to hear that. What was your first concert that you ever attended? Like, how old were you? And who did you see? I'd love to hear about that. Well, I guess technically, my first official concert was seeing Beatlemania. This is before the Fab Four or any of those other Beatle groups that came out. This was Beatlemania, which was a big deal. And I remember my mom took me to the Pantages Theater in LA. I guess is it part of Hollywood? Hollywood, LA. Anyway, in LA. I just call it LA. And saw Beatlemania there. So that I guess was my first concert, but I have to say my first real concert was seeing Gary Numan. And I saw Gary Numan, this was at the Santa Monica Civic Center in Santa Monica, California. This was when Cars had just come out, and you know, Newman wasn't a huge, like, Cars didn't hit like that huge hit that it ended up being, but he just released Pleasure Principle, And that was the first concert that I went to. Now, this isn't from that, by the way. I did see Gary Newman later on. This was several years ago, but I did get a chance to hang out with Gary and talk to him about music and all that stuff. It was just a really great thing, and got to see him rehearse for his concerts that he was doing. So I'm fortunate to be able to meet one of my heroes, and I do consider him a guitar hero and influence, because his music and ushering in the whole synthesizer thing that was a thing, that he was the one who really brought that into the whole new wave thing. But it was really great to see him and to talk with him. So, but yeah, Gary Newman was my first concert that I went to. So I'd love to hear your first. What was the first concert that you went to? And the other thing is, I'll put it out here. What was the best concert that you've ever attended? Like you went to a show and you were just like completely blown away. I have a hard time trying to narrow that down. I have a really hard time trying to narrow that down, because I've seen so many great concerts. So I don't know. I have to say, I've seen David Gilmour three or four times. I got 3 times. I know at least 3 times. I've seen Paul McCartney a couple of times, which, you know, are incredible experiences, obviously. I always wanted to see, and I think the last Raw and Unfiltered episode I did, I call it the Linkin Park story about, of course I know, are millennials antisocial, is what I called it, but it's more than just that. But yeah, I never got to see Linkin Park with Chester, and I was planning to, and that's what I talk about in that Raw and Unfiltered. But I did go to the Celebration of Life concert that happened back in 2017, which was a great show. And that was great on a different level because of what that experience was. So check out that episode of Raw and Unfiltered to find out more about that. But anyway, those are some of the greatest concerts that I went to. Oh, well, you know, here's another one. It doesn't always have to be rock, right? I went to see George Martin. Sir George Martin. He conducted the LA Philharmonic Orchestra. I saw him at the Hollywood Bowl. And he had guest artists, singers. He had guest musicians as well. Stuart Copeland was playing drums. He was a guest. The singer from Counting Crows was there. Oh, and Brad Delp. Brad Delp, the voice of Boston, the original singer for Boston, was there. And I'm glad I got to see Brad before he passed away. And that was special too. So that was a good concert. Maybe you have what was the worst concert that you've seen? Put that in the comments. I'd like to hear about that as well. Share with me, okay? I can't really think of a concert that was completely horrible. I'm trying to think. I did see at the Hollywood Bowl, it was, what was it? It was, it was Peter and the Wolf. It was with the orchestra, and I think it was Pierce Brosnan was doing the narration. Honestly, I think I fell asleep. So maybe that would, I could fall into the category of being a worst concert, but I mean, it was okay. I mean, I've had some other artists, local artists, who were really horrible. Those were bad. But in regards to famous people, I just want to hear famous people, famous musicians, bands, artists, people that we would know. Share that in the comments, okay? Share that in the comments. All right, so those are some of the firsts. Like, we all have a first. So embrace doing things for the first time. That's another thing. Don't shy away from trying new things. And if you like blatantly fail, who cares, right? So what? Just chalk it up for experience. Trust me, I could go on a whole list of things, but I want to keep this episode short, so I'm not going to dive into that. But there's a lot of things that have happened in my life, and I'm sure happened in your life, that are firsts. So enjoy it, embrace it, okay? But share in the comments. I want to hear about your first concert. I want to hear about your best concert, maybe about your first piece of gear that you bought, your first guitar or whatever. Share about it. I'd love to hear from you, all right? So put that in the comments. And again, subscribe and hit the notification bell. I want to take you on the Laire journey. I'll be doing more stuff with ER and just other things as well. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Raw and Unfiltered. Just wanted to share with you some firsts as we move in. Maybe it's the first of the year. What are you going to do? What's your New Year's resolution? All right, you should have one. And maybe not really a resolution, maybe it's a plan. What is your plan for whatever you do? Sketch it out and stick to it, right? You've got to be accountable, all right? You've got to be accountable. Find somebody to be your accountability partner, okay? All right, I'm going to wrap things up here. Again, when you're out and about in the world, smile at a stranger, okay? So just give them a compliment. Say hello. That small gesture of kindness can make the world a difference in somebody's life. So be a life changer, okay? Be a life changer. We need more positivity in this world, all right? Have a great week. We'll be doing another edition of Raw and Unfiltered here. We do this every week. Catch some of the archived episodes here on the Laire channel. And again, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell.